Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Sally Pinto and I'm from the Yonkers Newark Neighborhood Naturally Occurring Retirement Community. We launched back in January of 2020 and we're here to serve seniors 60 plus in Northeast Yonkers. We have lots of fun programs and activities, and we also have a lot of resources for you as well. Our programs include meditation chair yoga, body mind fitness, bingo, and any other programs that you might be interested, like arts and gardening. We have our resource specialist, Alexa Smith, who can help you with finding services and activities out there for you, as well as our nurse, Barbara Simone, who can help answer your health-related questions. We're here for you, we're here for our community, and we look forward to seeing you in our programs. Enjoy.
Hello, everybody. I'm Alexa Smith, the resource specialist with the Yonkers Newark. I'm here to help with application assistance, referrals for home delivered meals, and transportation services will be coming soon. We also offer Zoom activities and Zoom programs. And if you have any other questions or concerns, I'm here to help. Thank you so much and enjoy the program.
Welcome. I'm Barbara Simone, registered nurse. I recently retired from Westchester County's Health Department as a public health nurse. I am now here to try to assist you with any medical or preventive care issues. Enjoy this program, and I'm looking forward to working with you.
So without further ado, Jessica Flores, thank you.
Thank you so much, Sally, and thank you everyone for joining me again. I am a community engagement manager and diversity specialist for the Alzheimer's Association Hudson Valley chapter. I cover all of Westchester County, but I'm also a bilingual staff, so I cover all of the Hudson Valley, and I have a special interest in the Spanish-speaking community and bringing awareness and resources to the entire Hudson Valley as well. I'm happy to be back. Like Sally mentioned, last month we had in our program we touch on the many strategies that we have to live well as we continue to age, and we spoke about getting regular physical activity, our diet, managing stress, and getting good quality sleep, which these are all good ingredients for a long and healthy life. And today we're going to be talking about the 10 warning signs of Alzheimer's disease. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Bear with me one second. And today's program, we're going to take a look at what our learning objectives are going to be. And today we're going to describe typical age-related memory, thinking, or behavioral changes, recognize common warning signs of Alzheimer's and dementia, discuss the tips for approaching someone about memory concerns, explain the importance of early detection and benefits of diagnosis, and identify possible tests and assessments for the diagnostic process. And of course, we're going to name the resources that are available through the Alzheimer's Association. Throughout today's presentation, we will periodically check in with the Garcias, which is a fictitious family, and we're going to follow along as Mary's daughters discuss their mother's memory changes and take action to find the cause. Please note that the Garcia's experience might be common, but it does not represent the exact experience for everyone, as situations vary from person to person. And so we're going to meet Mary, who is a 73-year-old widow who lives alone. She is a retired teacher and has always meticulously cared for her home. Her daughter has recently noticed laundry piling up and mail and newspapers scattered around the house. Lydia, who's on the left, is the eldest of Mary's two daughters and lives a few miles away, and she visits Mary frequently. Patricia, who's on the right, lives in another state, works long hours, and is unable to visit mother frequently. However, she communicates with Mary and Lydia frequently via phone and text. And so Lydia is concerned about their mother's noticeable lack of tidiness and that she's continuously losing things. And so she is going to reach out to Patricia. So let's take a look at their conversation. So as you can see, they're worried about mom, and now they are reaching out to Dr. Salloway. And I just want to point out that although this is a fictional scenario, Dr. Stephen Salloway is in fact a real MD who has been recognized as a leading expert in aging, Alzheimer's disease, and other memory disorders.
Jessica, could you just read the exchange because we have a couple people on the phone and they can't see the screen?
Sure, absolutely. So let me just circle back. So you'll see it says they're worried about mom. She keeps losing things and the house is a mess. Probably normal to get a little forgetful with age. It's so unlike her. Should we worry? Let's reach out to our old neighbor, Dr. Salloway.
As we get older, cognitive problems become more noticeable for almost everybody, and it can vary from person to person. Typically with age, people have trouble coming up with the word they want right when they want it. They have trouble remembering names, and they don't think quite as quickly. What's more concerning, or what might be the beginning of a memory problem, is people have a lot of trouble coming up with words or names, and it's happening more frequently, and the words or names don't necessarily come to them later. And then they start misplacing things, but not just once in a while, because we all misplace things, but more often. And it begins to interfere day to day. That should be a warning sign for people that this might be the beginning of a memory problem.
And so we're all here today to learn more about dementia and Alzheimer's and identify common warning signs of the disease. And you may have heard the terms dementia and Alzheimer's used interchangeably. And while they are related, there are significant differences between the two. So we're going to hear more about this from our Dementia Association experts. And first, we're going to hear from Dr. Heather Snyder, who is going to discuss what dementia is.
Dementia is the umbrella term for an individual's changes in memory, thinking, or reasoning. There are many possible causes of dementia, and Alzheimer's is the most common cause. Other causes of dementia are vascular dementia, which is marked by changes in the blood flow and the blood vessels in the brain. Dementia with Lewy bodies, identified by specific brain changes throughout the brain that include the buildup of a protein known as alpha-synuclein, and frontal temporal dementia, which is marked by brain cell loss in the front sections of the brain or the frontal lobe. Each type of dementia may have distinct characteristics to cause specific behaviors in the individual, but there is also some overlap in behaviors among the types of dementia.
So Alzheimer's is the most common form of dementia, accounting for more than 80% of all cases. Next, we have Dr. Dean Hartley, who is going to explain to us what the disease is and what it looks like in the brain.
More than 100 years ago, Dr. Alice Alzheimer's described specific changes in the brain, what we call the formation of plaques and tangles. Now, Alzheimer's is a progressive brain disease that's marked by these key changes and is thought to impact memory, thinking, and behavior. The brain has three main parts: the cerebrum, the cerebellum, and the brainstem. Each one plays a role in how the body functions. The cerebrum fills up most of your skull. It is part of the brain most involved in remembering, problem-solving, thinking, and even feelings. There are about 100 billion nerve cells, or neurons, throughout the brain that transmit messages in order for us to create memories, feelings, and thoughts. Alzheimer's disease causes nerve cells to die, which leads to the brain tissue loss, or what we call shrinkage, and causes loss of function and communication between cells. These changes can cause the symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, such as memory loss, problems with thinking, planning, behavioral issues, and even at the end stages, problems with swallowing.
I also forgot to mention at the beginning that if you have any questions throughout our time together, please feel free to put them on the chat, or if you would like to ask them yourself at the end of the program, we're going to reserve some Q&A time. So lastly, we're going to hear from Ruth Drew, and she is the Director of Information and Support Services at the Alzheimer's Association. And she's going to talk about the importance of recognizing the warning signs of Alzheimer's.
It's important to know what the warning signs of Alzheimer's are and to be on the lookout. We know that we change over time, and the warning signs of Alzheimer's can be warning signs of a number of things, but when you see those in yourself or in someone you care about, it's important to check it out, to consult with a doctor, to find out what you're dealing with.
As Ruth said, it is important to know what the warning signs are and to be on the lookout for these marked changes. The Alzheimer's Association, as a leader in this area, has developed a list of 10 warning signs to help people understand the difference between normal aging and common signs of possible dementia. And this list is intended to be a tool to help identify those unusual changes in a person's memory, thinking, or behavior. It's important to note that this list does not constitute a diagnosis of Alzheimer's or dementia. These are simply the most common examples of changes experienced. And individuals may experience one or more of these signs in different degrees. So we're going to explore each sign and what some typical age-related changes may be. And number one is memory loss that disrupts daily life. And this is one of the most common signs of Alzheimer's, especially early on. It's forgetting recently learned information. Others include forgetting important dates or events, repeatedly asking the same questions, and increasingly relying on memory aids or leaning on others for things or tasks once handled on their own. And a typical age-related change is sometimes forgetting information, but remembering it later. For example, you might occasionally forget a person's name, but later in the day, you remember it, right? You also might misplace your glasses sometimes, or maybe you need to make a list more often than in the past so that you could remember your appointments or tasks. And these are all changes in memory that are generally manageable and that do happen and are common as we continue to age, right? So that's the difference between a typical age-related change. We're looking for that type of memory loss that is really going to disrupt your daily life tremendously. And our next sign is challenges in planning or solving problems. Some people may experience new difficulties in executive functioning, including developing or following a plan or difficulty concentrating. Conversely, a more typical age-related change is making occasional errors when managing bills or household finances. We're going to hear from John, who is living with dementia with Lewy bodies, about how he experienced his early warning sign.
I was probably spending 4 to 5 times more time preparing for something than I did, say, 5 or 10 years ago, because of the, I would lose my thought, I'd lose my focus, I'd get anxious, I wouldn't get to sleep. I was thinking this, I was in my sleep, I was thinking about what I was anxious about, which was I was trying to remember, which was I was trying to prepare, which I was trying to do. So it was really a vicious circle of, so I was able to control it a lot, so that people on the wouldn't see things and not, there weren't things to be seen. It's what was disturbing me was what effort I had to put into to do the things I used to do more easily.
Sign number 3 is difficulty completing familiar tasks. People living with dementia often find it hard to complete daily tasks that used to be managed with ease, such as driving to a familiar place, writing a grocery list, or remembering how to play a favorite game. A typical age-related change would be occasionally needing help to use a microwave or remote, and this could also include having trouble with new technology that the person hasn't had the opportunity to engage with as frequently. We're going to hear more about this from our association expert.
Some people have difficulty with math or with reading in a way that's unusual to them. And once again, this is a change in that person. So for example, we all know somebody who was never able to balance their checkbook, right? So that wouldn't be a warning sign for them. But if somebody who always balanced their checkbook to the penny suddenly was paying bills, the same bill over and over, and not able to balance their finances, well, that would be a sign for them.
Moving on to our next sign is number 4, confusion with time or place. An individual living with Alzheimer's or another dementia may lose track of dates, seasons, or the passage of time. They may have trouble understanding something if it's not currently happening, or become confused about where they are or how they got there. And this can become more dramatic or profound in the middle and late stages of the disease. A more typical age-related change could be getting confused about what day it is or when a scheduled appointment is, but you figure it out later. Number 5, trouble understanding visual images and spatial relationships. Individuals with Alzheimer's or another dementia may experience vision problems, which can lead to difficulty with balance, trouble reading, and problems judging distance and determining color and contrast, which can all impact driving or navigating the environment around them. Vision changes such as cataracts are more typical age-related change. And this science shows us that these changes are not just about memory. It's important to think about all the other ways that someone's daily life may be impacted by any of these changes. And our expert is going to explain more. Let's take a look.
Alzheimer's disease is not just a disease of memory. It can affect other things too. It can affect the way that we perceive what we see. So sometimes somebody in the early stages of Alzheimer's might go to the eye doctor because they're having trouble seeing, and in fact, their vision is just fine, but the way they're perceiving what they're seeing may be difficult.
Number 6, new problems with words in speaking or writing. Individuals may have trouble following or joining a conversation, stop in the middle of a conversation and forget what they were talking about, and continuously repeat themselves. They might also struggle with finding the right word or calling things by the wrong name. They may start using more descriptive terms to talk about something rather than the name of the actual item. A normal age-related change, however, would be occasionally having trouble finding the right word. And now we're going to hear from Phil, who's living with Alzheimer's, about this warning sign.
The other thing that I've increasingly been struggling with are words, which I've dealt with words my entire life, you know, as an avid reader, as a reporter, as a writer. I struggle with them now.
Next sign, number 7, misplacing things and losing the ability to retrace your steps. And this sign often causes concern in people. And I want to clarify that this is not about just losing your keys on occasion. Misplacing things from time to time, but retracing steps to find them is a normal age-related change. A person with Alzheimer's disease may lose things and not be able to recall when it was last seen or identify the location where it was placed. Or he or she may put things in unusual places, such as putting shoes in the refrigerator. Because of the lack of executive functioning and awareness, the person may grow increasingly suspicious of others and start accusing others of stealing, and do so more frequently over time. Let's hear from Ruth Drew again to explain this sign a little bit further.
So some people wonder if, if they lose their keys or their glasses or their purse, is that a sign of Alzheimer's? And one thing that I would say about that is for most of us, we might misplace something, but then if we retrace our steps, we can usually find it. We can usually remember. For a person with Alzheimer's, sometimes they're not able to retrace their steps. Sometimes that memory is just gone. And so when they do find their keys next to the phone because they got interrupted by a phone call when they were coming in and they set their keys down in an unusual space, so there they are next to the phone. If that happened to you or me, we'd probably remember, oh yeah, the phone was ringing when I came in the door. I put down my keys. The person with Alzheimer's might not remember. They might wonder who's moving their keys around because they never put their keys by the phone. So that's just a little bit of a difference in some of the dynamics with losing things in Alzheimer's.
Sign number 8, decreased or poor judgment. Individuals may experience changes in judgment or decision making, such as using poor judgment when dealing with money or paying less attention to their hygiene and grooming. And this can be especially common in individuals who live alone. Making a bad decision once in a while, such as forgetting to get an oil change, is a more typical age-related change. Let's hear from Teresa.
The way I kept my house, I wouldn't say I was OCD, but pretty close to it. And all of a sudden, everything was okay with me. It's like, oh, it's a pile, I'm tired. So my dining room table usually looked like it was someone's office, because I always would say I would do it tomorrow. And then my bedroom, as far as clothing, I would just put it in a corner, put it in a chair. And all of this is just, I wouldn't say it looked like I was a pet wreck, but really I was, because I never threw anything away. I always would say, I'll get to it, but I never did get to it. So just the way of my standard of living, it was actually decreasing.
The next sign is withdrawal from work or social activities. And as we age, it's normal to feel somewhat uninterested sometimes by family or social engagement at times. However, someone who is experiencing dementia-related changes may start to lose their ability to hold or follow a conversation, and as a result begin to withdraw from social encounters or hobbies, and they may lose the confidence to engage in that way. And now we're going to hear from Dr. Salway about this sign.
One of the most common changes, and early on, is the person's comfort zone shrinks a little bit, and then that gets worse throughout the course of the illness. So they're less comfortable going out, they're less motivated to do things than they were in the past. So there's some change in day-to-day functioning that way. I think people also lose confidence in their cognitive abilities, because they may not recognize someone or know their name or find the right word, and they'll feel awkward, and they don't want people to notice that, so they feel more comfortable at home or in situations with family where they're very, very comfortable with that wouldn't concern them. So people tend to withdraw a little bit and be less outgoing. That's can be one of the early signs of Alzheimer's.
And number 10 is changes in mood and personality. Individuals with Alzheimer's or another dementia may become confused, suspicious, depressed, fearful, or anxious. They might get easily upset either at home or when out of their comfort zone. As we age, however, it's normal to develop very specific ways of doing things and becoming upset or irritable when our routine is disrupted. However, someone with Alzheimer's or dementia may become fearful, angry, or easily frustrated, which is something that should be addressed. And Dr. Salaway will share more.
Another early sign of Alzheimer's or dementia is subtle changes in behavior. So all of a sudden, the family may notice the person is more easily irritated, or more impatient, or a little moody, or have a shorter fuse, or more anxious. Now, there's lots of things that can cause that, but often that can be an early symptom of Alzheimer's or go along with the early symptoms of memory loss.
Now we're going to check in with the Garcias again. As we talked about earlier, Mary's daughters are concerned about the changes they're observing in their mom. And they want to know when it's time to see a doctor about the changes they've witnessed. So we're going to take a look at their conversation, and I'm going to read along.
Jessica, can you read them again?
Yes, I will, once it's done. Okay, so the conversation between the daughters is, did you look at the warning signs info I sent? I did, but still don't know. Mom's showing a couple of signs, but not all the time. How do we know if it's serious enough to see a doctor? Let's check with Dr. Salaway.
Memory is not all or none, especially when there are early symptoms or signs. So on a good day, people might function very well and not really even, no one notices there's a memory problem. But on other days, especially if they're tired, then things become more noticeable. So memory is variable. It's not all or none. And then there are different type of symptoms that develop for each person. So some people may have trouble with language, may have trouble with organizing themselves, may have trouble navigating while driving, and other people don't have the same symptoms. So you don't have to have every symptom of Alzheimer's to be concerned. And I think the most important thing is determining what has changed from that person's normal level of functioning. And usually people have a pretty keen sense of, what they can normally do well. And then when either they or the family notice that there has been some change from that usual pattern of functioning, that should be a warning sign to people. But they don't have to check off all the boxes.
Dr. Salaway gave us a great recap, and it's important to remember that these warning signs are intended to be a guide to help us identify problems in memory, thinking, or behavior that may be related to Alzheimer's or another dementia. Also, individuals may experience one, all, or some of these signs in different degrees and in numerous or single occurrences. They do not have to experience them all or all of them to have a concern, right? So it's important to discuss any changes in your memory, thinking, or behavior in either yourself or someone else with a doctor. And our next topic is early detection. And it's key that we pay attention to what's going on with our own cognitive health and not dismiss any changes that we may be experiencing as normal aging, as well as that of others around us. Any change that's unusual for your level of functioning or that of someone around you should be a cause of concern. Many times, friends and family are the first to notice changes in someone's memory, behavior, or other abilities. And in this module, we're going to discuss why it's critical to address any observed changes early and seek answers from a medical professional. Sometimes the person that's exhibiting symptoms isn't aware or may not have the insight to know that they're experiencing these changes, which is why having an outside perspective is critical. And this is especially important for individuals who live alone or are from their family and friends. So let's listen to as Dr. Salway discusses this, and then we're going to hear from a care partner who was the first to notice these changes in her husband.
You know, it's a very interesting phenomenon that people who have memory problems are often less aware of it than family members or their friends who know them well. One of the reasons for that is our ability to monitor ourselves, which is an important part of brain function, decreases when we start having memory problems. Not in everybody, but commonly, and more than half the people with memory problems. And so the person is just not keeping track of the trouble they're having day to day. But the family members are, you know, paying attention. If they're paying attention, they see, boy, this is starting to happen a lot, and the person's not aware of it. So the family's more aware, and they may talk to their loved one about it, and they say, you know, I've noticed you've been repeating yourself. And they say, I'm not repeating myself. And that could either be due to the fact that they're not aware of it, or they may not want to acknowledge it.
And now we're going to hear from Mary, the care partner.
I was so adamant about what was happening to Daryl. I wasn't sure. I didn't know. And this wasn't the person that I know. This wasn't the person. Daryl was my husband was very, he always had to be building or designing or working with his hands. And it was getting to the point where he wasn't, and he was becoming very frustrated when he was forgetting to do things or go places.
So what should you do if you notice changes in someone? If you continue to observe these changes, it's critical that you plan to take the next step and have a conversation with the person or others close to him or her about what you're noticing. And this can be a difficult and very uncomfortable conversation to have. The Alzheimer's Association has developed a roadmap of 10 helpful steps to help make addressing memory concerns less daunting and a bit more productive. So let's take a look at this roadmap. So number 1 is, what changes in memory, thinking, or behavior do you see? So we're going to start by assessing the situation, right? What are these changes that we're noticing in perhaps ourselves or someone that we love or someone that is close to us? And why are these signs concerning to us? The next step is, what else is going on? What other conditions can cause changes in memory, thinking, and behavior? Are there other health or lifestyle issues that can be contributing to these changes? It could be stress, diabetes, or change in medication. Number 3, we want to learn about the signs and the benefits of early diagnosis. So you've already taken that very important first step by joining us today for this program and learning about these topics. So if you do notice any of these signs in the person you're concerned about, we want to, now you have a better and clear perspective of what signs to look for. And number 4, has anyone else noticed these changes that you've observed? You want to talk with friends and family. And of course, ask, if any, what changes have they noticed? And next, prepare to have a conversation. Who should have the conversation to discuss concerns with that person? It could be you. It could be a trusted family member or friend, or a combination. And it's usually best to speak on one-on-one so that the person doesn't feel threatened or ambushed, but use what you know about the person to judge what approach might work best. Number 6, what is the best time and place to have this conversation? So when and where should this conversation be held? It's important to have the conversation as soon as possible. And in addition to identifying a time and place, you should also consider where the person will feel the most comfortable. What will you or the other person having the conversation say? For some people, building somewhat of a script has been helpful to them. So maybe we want to consider the following questions if having a script works for us. I've noticed this changed in you, and I'm concerned. Have you noticed this? Are you worried? How have you been feeling lately? You haven't seemed like yourself. Or I noticed you and it has worried me. Has anything else like this? Go with the person to the doctor. Ask the person to see a doctor and offer to accompany them. Try using encouraging words such as, there are lots of things that could be causing this. Let's see if the doctor can help us figure out what's going on. And the sooner we know what's causing these problems, the sooner we can address it. And I think it would give us both peace of mind if we talk to a doctor. Aside from my professional relationship with this disease, I also have a personal connection. My father passed away. This Valentine's Day will be 4 years. He had Alzheimer's disease. And I can tell you that one of the difficult behaviors he displayed was going to visit the doctor. So one of the techniques that my mom would use is the language of how she would present it. And she would say, we have a doctor's appointment, instead of saying, you have a doctor's appointment, you need to go to the doctor, right? So small changes in language can be extremely helpful in these difficult behaviors and situations that come with the disease. Number 9, if needed, have multiple conversations. Don't be discouraged if the first conversation is not as successful as you hoped. You want to write down notes about how it went so that you can prepare for any future conversations. Don't dismiss the changes you're noticing simply because the person is reluctant to address them or the conversation didn't go as you planned. And of course, reach out for support. You can turn to the Alzheimer's Association for information and support. And of course, there are other organizations in the community that you can be connected for services and resources. And finally, see a doctor. Most people address concerns about memory, thinking, and behavior with their primary care physician first. However, in some cases, the primary care physician may refer the person to a specialist for further evaluation. And some examples of these specialists include a geriatrician, neurologist, neuropsychologist, psychiatrist, and a psychologist. So what are the benefits of early detection? We know now what signs to look for and how to approach this conversation. And now we're going to discuss the benefits of early detection.
There are a number of benefits in early detection of Alzheimer's. For one thing, a person is able to have a voice in what happens next. They can make plans. They can live life more on their own terms. They can also make plans for the future, financial plans, care plans. They can let people know what they want, which can be a real gift later on. It also allows time for families to make plans and to make decisions about who can do what and figure out care and those kinds of issues. Also, the treatments that are available for Alzheimer's don't cure Alzheimer's. They don't slow down the disease, but they do help with symptoms. And it seems as though they tend to work better the earlier a person is able to use those. So that can help too. Some people are interested in clinical trials. Clinical trials allow people to have access to treatments that aren't available yet. And for some people, that can be a really important thing to pursue.
And to recap this module, paying attention to changes you notice in people, especially regarding memory, thinking, or behavior, is important for early detection. If you do observe unusual behaviors or occurrences, take action by having a conversation about what you've observed. You can consider using that 10-step approach that we just went over about memory concerns. And you can customize it so that you are approaching the person in the most supportive way possible. There are a number of benefits to early detection, such as planning for the future, access to treatments for symptoms, and you can participate in clinical trials, which we will provide the links for all these resources at the end of the program. Now let's take a look at what may be involved in the medical process to determine the cause of these symptoms. And we're going to start by asking a question. And the question is, there is currently no way to diagnose Alzheimer's disease. Is this true or false? And you can input it in the chat if you would like to. If not, we can share later on. The answer for this is false. Contrary to an outdated belief that Alzheimer's diagnosis can only be made at autopsy, there are a number of assessments and tests that make it possible for healthcare professionals to diagnose Alzheimer's and dementia with a high degree of certainty. However, determining the cause of dementia can sometimes be more difficult. And here we're going to explore possible steps of the diagnostic process, and keep in mind as we review these steps, not everyone may be asked to undergo each one by their doctor. And some assessments may include a medical history, a physical exam, screen for depression, interview with close companions, and some of the tests may include laboratory tests, mental cognitive status tests, and brain imaging. Now we're going to check in with the Garcias. And Mary's daughters are preparing for answers about their mom's changes in behavior. And they wonder, do dementia-like symptoms always result in a diagnosis of Alzheimer's or dementia? Appointments have been made, going well. Mom's handling them okay. Think it's really dementia? Guess we won't know until we get a diagnosis. But let's ask Dr. Soloway if it could be possible that it could be anything else.
Someone could have high blood pressure that's out of control, or they might have a thyroid condition that's not regulated, or diabetes that's not right, or on a medication that actually can cause memory loss. Drinking too much alcohol can make memory worse. So there are a lot of factors that go into cognitive difficulty with aging, that some of them can be remedied. And so we want to do everything we can to improve cognitive ability and quality of life.
So let's go ahead and review. The diagnostic process will vary from person to person depending on the individual's specific situation and what the doctor feels is the right course of action for that person. The diagnosis may be something other than Alzheimer's or another dementia, which is why it's important to investigate the cause of the symptoms. Stigma and misconceptions about Alzheimer's, like nothing can be done, can deter some people from seeking a diagnosis. So getting information and support is also a critical next step. So we're going to learn a little more about what the Alzheimer's Association has to offer. So if the diagnosis is Alzheimer's disease, what's next? We can see the conversation between the two daughters, which says, I called but got your voicemail. How did it go? I'll call you later when I get home, but the diagnosis is early stage Alzheimer's. Oh no, what do we do now? Doc said the Alzheimer's Association offers free resources. Some even help people live well with their disease. We'll call soon, but let the office with some hope. So let's go ahead and check these out. And of course, the Alzheimer's Association is in communities across the country, providing direct service to individuals and families facing this disease. And of course, due to the pandemic, things are done a little bit differently. Our doors continue to be open virtually. We continue to provide all our service via phone or through virtual meetings such as this one. And that's our mission, which is, of course, our world without Alzheimer's disease and all dementia. And our 1-800 number is there, which is our 24/7 hotline. I will be inputting all this information in the chat as well. And you will receive this information after the program through an email from either Sally or Z. And we are available wherever and whenever you need reliable information and support. All our services and resources are free, and 3 of our key resources that can connect you with information and support include our 24/7 helpline, which you can call us at 1-800-272-3900 anytime, day or night, to receive information and support. It's going to provide access to highly trained and knowledgeable staff who can help you with education, decision-making support, crisis assistance, and resource identification. We also have master level clinicians who are available around the clock to provide in-depth care consultations, which is a free of charge care navigation service offered to the families at any stage of the disease.
I've had a couple of phone calls that I've been able to make in to the call center. When I've had a couple of quick questions that I wanted to ask. You know, there's been a couple of nights, 2 o'clock in the morning, you have questions, you have anxieties, and I was struggling dealing with them, and it's amazing. It was one of the best things I ever did, was keeping the call center on my favorites now. Just to know that there's somebody you can call who is aware of what you're going through.
And that was Tim, and he was just sharing his experience with the helpline. He has called for support. And of course, we have our online services, which is our website, alz.org. And this is usually the first stop for individuals following a diagnosis of Alzheimer's or another dementia. You're going to see sections that are specifically for people who are living with the disease. And if you're a caregiver, there's also a section for you. And of course, our community resource finder, which is a wealth of community-based resources that are available in your area, including long-term care, community-based services. Where can you find our local offices, our program and support services? You can visit alz.org/CRF. And this concludes our program for today, but of course, we can always share the many ways that you can join to this fight for a world without Alzheimer's. And we always encourage to take a good look at our volunteering opportunities, whether you can spare a few hours a week or make a more significant commitment. We have wonderful volunteers, and you can obtain more information about that as well in our website. If you would like to become an Alzheimer's Association advocate and speak out on the behalf of the needs and rights of those facing Alzheimer's disease, you can also do that. of course, our trial match, which is something that you heard in the program. And through this program, everyone can help advance Alzheimer's research by participating in clinical trials. And you can get started with a trial match, which is a free, easy to use clinical study matching service. And for more information, I will provide the link to that as well. So once again, thank you for having me.
So the first case study was of the daughters who saw there was something going on with their parent. You know, caregivers live hectic lives, right? The children, so forth. Now, what happens when they're not made aware of it? When the other spouse is sort of hiding things and covering for, quote unquote, for the spouse.
Right, so that happens often, right? That happens often. There are times that, you know, if mom is the one who's caregiving and takes over this role, usually will do anything to help, you know, her husband, her partner. And usually they hide all these signs because they don't want to worry their families. And this is a cause of concern because usually the family gets to know about this when there is a crisis. Right. And so that's what we want to avoid. We want to really just open the lines of conversation and make them feel as comfortable as possible with them sharing what they're going through. Right. And now that we've learned these signs, there's something that if we're visiting that we can take a look at. Right. We might see things, you know, in our parents and our loved one and our friends that are not normal of them. They're very unusual. Like we mentioned, they disrupt their daily life tremendously. So once we notice these signs and we know what signs to look for, it makes it easier to just start that conversation with a caregiver that's very hesitant to share what's happening in their home. And of course, be very patient. We have to give the caregiver time to share something as delicate as this.
Hi, everyone. This is Z from Yonkers Public Library. Thanks so much to Sally Pinto and Alexis and Barbara from Newark. Thank you to our community partners, WJCS, the City of Yonkers Office for the Aging, Westchester County Legislator Ruth Walter, Friends of Crestwood Library, and Yonkers Public Library for making this phenomenal partnership. And we thank each and every one of you for being part of our wellness community. Be well, stay well.